chat with Jessica Chobot from Nerdist News. First of all, thank you so much for taking a couple minutes to sit down with me. I've been really excited for this interview. I had a great time researching you last night.
No, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. So the first thing I kind of wanted to talk to you about is a couple videos of yours that people should definitely watch that are on YouTube, but not until you finish this interview. Don't watch them yet. But I'm super excited to talk to you about them. The first one, and probably the most iconic one I've seen you, is talking about video game suicide. And when you jump off of a cliff to restart at a checkpoint in a video game. And so,
that one. I'm
that
like,
one.
wow, when did I talk about that? And I was like, oh yeah, during my breakdown. Yeah, so that was a very passionate rant.
Yes, definitely.
Because I have a part, in my opinion, part of what makes the game is the failure.
Yeah.
And so to stop before you see that failure actually occur and go all the way through, like I'm jumping off a cliff or I fell off of a building, so I'm gonna immediately click and restart instead of watching the actual drop and the death. To me is, I wouldn't call it cheating. I think I went off on a rant and was like cheating, but I definitely think it's cheap gameplay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like part of the experience of gaming is the failure, and also, hello, that's life. So, things like the new Tomb Raider series, actually, although they're very graphic, so I don't necessarily recommend you do this until you are of age to play that game. But part of the whole narrative is the failure, and like, how is Lara gonna meet her end? And it kind of just feels like a little bit of cheap gameplay if you don't see it through.
Yeah, I was curious what you think of. Do you play Overwatch?
I do not. I've played Overwatch, but I don't play it a lot.
Right. Well,
I'm more like single player story campaigns.
Yeah, that's like my dad. But like, what you think of when your deaths are staggered in a multiplayer game and you need to die so you can all respawn as a team? Are you still against that?
I mean, you die when you die for a reason, so
Right.
I mean, that's a tougher call, because that one is, part of the actual, like, baked into the gameplay. It's not so much just riding it out until the end, and then you also have your teammates with you as well. I mean, that one's more of a catch-22, right? On one hand, I feel like when you die is when you die.
Yeah.
And that's part of the game, and so be it. So if your team suffers, you got to take that into account. Don't die. Like, don't do it. Then the other side is, but if it's competitive and everybody else is doing it and it is baked in as an option in the game, that also is gameplay. So I guess it just depends on personal preference, and especially for titles like that where the deaths are staggered and nobody can really respawn until everybody's on the map, then that one's a little bit more of a gray area in my opinion. I think the one that I was talking about is like, single player story mode campaigns or things of that nature, where it's, there's a specific goal you're trying to get to, and just because you didn't get to that goal that time, you do that quick restart. That to me is a little shady. Yeah,
that's not really something that I like to do.
Yeah.
Because it's part of the
Don't get me wrong. There's plenty of games though where you're like, if I have to see this, like let's just say Skyrim, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's an older game now, but man,
love
the
Skyrim.
load. So good. The load times between those respawns, if you did die, were so long. So I get it.
The opening cutscene.
It
takes forever.
Like, I get it. You just make that happen as fast as possible just to like pull the Band-Aid off. But say la vie.
C'est la vie. But yeah, I thought that's one of my favorite things I've like ever seen. Maybe the best couple of minutes of video ever. And it's sort of everything I love about you and your personality, because you're so passionate about all of these things that you talk about, and it's absolutely amazing.
Thanks.
And another thing I wanted to talk to you about, another video clip, is Jessica Chobot breaks down on Nerdist News. And
when I was sick?
Yeah, I saw that one. And it really kind of reminded me of myself, because I do a lot of hosting and interviews and stuff like that. And sometimes it's just, I'm not in the mood for it. But you still have to go to work and you still have to turn it on. Yeah. And I was wondering how you do it and if you have any tips.
How do I do it? I think part of it's just experience. Like, over time, you just learn how to, sounds terrible, but to specifically, like, when you're sick or you're not feeling well, kind of fake it till you get through the day.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah, because here's the thing. The longer you take to give a good take, the longer you're stuck there doing it. And
Yeah.
if you're not feeling good, you want to wrap that up as fast as possible.
Go.
I, in that particular instance, was really ticked because I had a fever and I was super sick and they forced me to work anyway, and I should have been home. But yeah, I mean, there's situations where a great example recently is I did a bunch of developer interviews for Square Enix for Just Cause 4 in preparation for E3 this year, and when I was in New York, I had gotten a really bad case of bronchitis to the point where you almost couldn't, like, hear me. Like, my voice was really gone. But you got to get through it. So it was just drinking tea and you know, trying to make myself feel as good as I could, lots of sleep. And honestly, when you're at the job, because those were probably 8 to 9 hour shoot days, and so there's no rushing to, you know, it's not just one take, it's many takes because it's just what they need content-wise. So for situations like that, when you're like working a long E3 or a long Comic-Con or a situation like that, or BattleBots or whatever, that there's long days and you're not feeling good, honestly, the best thing is just to like put yourself in the mental state that this day at some point is going to end and I am going to be able to go home and go to sleep, and then just let that be kind of what you have in the back of your mind. So just kind of find that inner calm.
Yes.
Because it will end. As miserable as you feel right now, the hours will pass and you'll be able to go to sleep.
Yeah. We call it, when I turn it on, we call it YouTube Presley, so that I can just crank it out real fast. I have this thing where I get really, really good, and then I get a good take, and then it just straight down.
That happens to me after lunch.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime I'm shooting, something about eating lunch puts me in a stupor, and I then thus get more stupid. Like, I'll drop lines, I'll forget lines, I'll fumble words. You know, I have a tendency to stutter, so if I get really worked up about something, I can't say it properly.
I think it takes you out of the mindset of, like, I need to be here to work, because then you're at lunch and you can chill and eat, and it takes you out of the mindset.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, speaking of YouTube and turning it on, completely selfishly, I wanted to ask you for some career advice, because you do stuff that's really similar to me. And obviously things are going pretty well for me since I'm DCC's official press correspondent. Yeah. But you have done so much more, and you've done so many amazing things. And yeah, I just wanted to know if you had any advice.
Is there anything specific you want to know about? Or
just sort of like how you've been able to be so successful doing what you do, and you've built up your personality and stuff.
I would say try, and it's hard because everybody has bad days, but try at least, and listen, sometimes shoots get very frustrating, and there's some people that are great at their jobs during those shoots and others that aren't, that are going to extend your day and you're going to get irritated. But for the most part, try to always show up on time. Yep. And with a smile on your face, and be nice to, I think this is key, try to be nice to everybody, no matter where they rank in the system. Even if it's the person getting you your coffee, you treat them with as much respect as, you know, you do your director or your producer, because everybody eventually over time, if they're good at their job, which most everybody I've ever run into will grow along with you, and you'll find out that, you know, somebody that was a PA at a job that you did 10 years ago is now head of production somewhere else that's trying to hire you now, and it carries through. So I try to do that. I always try to have a smile on my face. I try to treat everybody on set nice. If I do have a bad day, it's a bad day with me, not with them. I think that's probably the most important. And don't take any comments too seriously. Anybody that leaves comments in everybody's got opinions. You don't need to necessarily hear it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you a lot for that, because I'm sure your advice is going to help me a lot and improve, because it's something that's really important to me, and this is what I love to do. And speaking of work and stuff, I'm always struggling with things I want to do and things I need to give up in order to achieve my dreams, and like smaller dreams that I need to give up in order to do my bigger ones. And I was wondering if you have any stories of times where you were chasing something big and you had to give something up, even if it was just a small thing.
Yes, it wasn't small. Well, I guess I kind of am. Let me think about this. Yes-ish, because it ended up kind of working out, which was a lesson to me that in the end, almost everything works in your favor. There's been plenty of auditions and jobs that I've wanted that I haven't gotten, so those in and of themselves were huge disappointments.
Yeah.
But also, you know, I learned at a certain point that just because I didn't get a job didn't mean that there wasn't another job that was potentially better for me just around the corner.
Yeah.
In fact, I just today I had something that I had lost out on, ended up, and I was really disappointed about it, ended up popping back up and found out it got canceled. And had I gotten that job, I wouldn't have been able to do BattleBots. And BattleBots is actually something that's like really, really important to me because it's probably the only show I've done that I consider like traditional family-oriented entertainment. And, you know, as a mom and, you know, as an older woman now, that stuff's a little bit more important to me than when I was a teenager. So I'm proud of that. But yeah, I wouldn't have been able to do that. I wouldn't have been able to be here. Like, there's a lot of stuff that at the time I was really extremely bummed out about and really depressed, and, you know, was telling my husband how I felt bad and I felt like a failure, and, you know, why is it that I'm always losing out to these particular kind of things? And then lo and behold, it gets canceled anyway. It doesn't work out. I wouldn't have been able to do all that other stuff. So I've come to discover, and it's a lot of work not to let yourself get beat up, and it doesn't always work out. Like, there's times where you're really going to want something and you don't get it, and you're just like so bummed, and that's normal. But don't let it completely, like, instead of letting it ruin my weeks now it only ruins like a couple hours or maybe a day at most, you know, and then I get over it, and then other stuff comes through that makes more sense for me.
Right.
So.
And like the universe is just sort of telling you not yet. You've got other stuff to do.
Totally. And it's, everybody can say that to you, and you're like, just shut up. But, you know, because your feelings are your feelings. You can't just stop feelings. But as long as you've got that in the back of your mind that this too shall pass, it works out well.
Yeah. Thank you. That was really amazing.
Yeah.
And I also went to your panel yesterday, which was awesome.
Oh, which one? The Bizarre States one, or
it was the women in
women in pop culture.
Yeah, women geeks in pop culture. And I loved hearing you talk about playing video games with your dad when you were little. And it reminded me a lot of me and my dad when I was around 4 years old, where I would watch my dad play Zelda. I would play a little bit too, but it was more running around in areas with no enemies. So it was playing video games. Yeah. But that really inspired me, and so I wanted to act out the video game, so we almost LARPed. And then
that's cool.
Yeah.
I love LARP.
Yeah, LARP is great.
LARP is great.
Surprise!
I haven't done it in forever, but man, the times I've done it, I've had such a good time.
Yeah, same. It's been a couple years, but it's so good. And I had this idea for a video game company where I'd make games and then sell LARPing props for the games. Yeah. And my dad thought it was a good idea, and so we reserved, and I wanted to call it actoutgames. And so we reserved that as a domain on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Nice. And that's how my YouTube channel came around. And
that's awesome.
It just really reminded me of that story, and it was amazing. And you've said that playing video games has really shaped your life as it has shaped mine. And like, even I watched your escape room with Geek and Sundry, and you were talking about how playing video games gave you the experience necessary to do a lot of that stuff. I was curious if there are any other ways that it's shaped your life.
I mean, it's got my career, and my husband and my son, because I met them through gaming, because my husband was a host for G4, and so that's how I met him. And obviously, that's how I got my kid, or that specific kid. Sure? I suppose I could have, had I not met him, still had a kid, but it'd be a different type. But yeah, so that, you know, I mean, it kind of just, gaming has affected literally my entire life. Wow. You know, it was a wonderful hobby growing up, then it turned into a time of adventure for me once I kind of got it as a career, because it allowed me to do tons of travel, places that I always dreamed of going and never thought in a million years that I'd end up there. But because of, you know, covering events and stuff, I was able to go, and so I had this wonderful exposure to different cultures, different people, and I think that having that kind of travel exposure also turned me into a better person, because up until that point I was pretty stereotypical, you know, generic Midwesterner. Not that there's anything wrong with the Midwest, it's a lovely place, but, you know, I had a lot of those stereotypes kind of implanted in my brain. Yeah. So getting out there and meeting people that were different than me, and having the exposure for different cultures and stuff really turned me into a much better person. Yeah, definitely. And then from there it was, you know, meeting my husband and having our child, and now being able to do this. So, Yeah, I mean, it's literally been everything.
Yeah, definitely. And like speaking of travel, I saw that you wanted to live in Japan and teach
Badly, yes.
there. And so you missed the chance, but I actually got to go to Japan a few years ago, and I know you've been several times.
Yeah, I'm going again in November.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm trying to. The goal is to go at least once a year, every year.
Gosh, yeah, I wish that was me. I love Japan.
You never know, it could be. I mean, give it some time.
And I was wondering what made you love Japan so much.
So I had a couple things. I think it originally started because I had an aunt that taught Japanese, I had an aunt that taught English in Japan, English and art in Japan for a school over there with a program called the JET program, which was the Japanese Exchange Teaching Program. And she was there in the late 80s through 90s. Maybe even most mid-80s through 90s. She was there a long time. She was there for like 10, 12 years.
Wow.
And she would send us gift packages at Christmas time that she had picked up around there. And it was fascinating because we didn't have the internet then. There weren't like custom stores, and it wasn't like just hopping on Amazon and ordering a bunch of stuff that was imported. There was nothing, especially in the middle. Like, there's just nothing.
Yeah.
So getting these kind of toys and these different like baubles and candies and things that she'd send over was like phenomenally amazing and different.
Yeah.
So that kind of stoked a fire for Japan because I was just fascinated by that stuff through what she'd send and what she would talk about. And then when I got into college, that's when anime and manga really took off. I mean, kind of. It was still a lot of struggling to find like the entire series on a VHS, like Ranma 1/2. You got bits and pieces, but you didn't get the whole thing. And there were the big ones that like Akira and all those stuff you could find, but you couldn't find the more nuanced stuff unless you really, really tracked it down. But it was starting to trickle in. And then Ghost in the Shell hit and went to all the theaters, or all the art theaters. And that's when I feel anime and manga in the U.S. really blossomed and just really started to take off from there, where then you started getting Cowboy Bebop in theaters and Princess Mononoke, and it became a little bit more, like you'd start getting more imports were more available. Borders started carrying New Type magazine, so that was great.
Nice.
And then they started carrying the manga, and so it just all kind of stitched itself together over time, and I got really into that. In fact, I actually once sent a fan letter to Viz Media about Peach Girl.
Oh, really?
And they printed it, and it was such a girly fan letter. It was like,
amazing.
oh my gosh, I love Toji, but I don't know. Like, it was so girly. But they printed it, and that letter being printed, when I found it the following day, I was just like, oh my month was made. I was so
that's so
thrilled.
Cool.
So I have never been able to find it since. I think they stopped reprinting Peach Girl. So if anybody looks in their old Peach Girl volumes, I think it was like 3 or 5. They kind of split it into 2 series a little bit, but it's in there. If somebody is just like, Toji, oh my gosh, blah, 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 Jessica, that's me.
Oh, boy.
So I guess maybe collector's item? I don't know.
That's amazing.
But yeah, that's kind of how I got into Japan, and then I finally just decided, I mean, it's a long story, and I don't know if you have time for it, but I finally just decided to go. I bought a ticket one day and told my parents I'm leaving, and went over there by myself, stayed there a week, and came home, and was the best experience I'd ever had.
Nice.
And have gone ever since.
Yeah. You mentioned in one of your earlier times that you couldn't read Japanese, and so you bought red bean ice cream instead of strawberry.
Oh yeah, that was rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people took that story maybe the wrong way, in the sense that they thought I was ungrateful for being there, but it was more like a cultural shock moment where I was so hot and so tired and so discombobulated, not in a negative way. It's just that I was just a fish out of water.
Yeah.
And so your brain is constantly, and I was by myself, so I wasn't traveling with anybody, so I was kind of flying by the seat of my pants. So your brain is constantly on guard of landmarks that you need to keep track of, so that you know where you're going or can find your way back, because you don't speak the language. And like, just little things that are different, that are just different enough that you feel foolish because you don't know how to do it. And so you're just always in this struggle. It was a very pleasant struggle because I wanted to be there, but it was still a struggle and tiring, and it was also in the middle of July and extremely hot and humid. So, I had no money. Oh, no. I bought the wrong ice cream bar, and it just apparently broke my soul that day. So I cried.
Oh, no. But, you couldn't read the packaging back then. I was wondering if you picked up any more Japanese?
I have picked up a little bit of speaking, but still not very good at kanji. I can't. Kanji's... I've got a gazillion learn kanji apps on my phone, and it's in one ear, out the other. A big part of that, though, is because, and I've noticed this with my grasp on the language as well, even though I have beyond basic grasp. I mean, it's minimum at best. But I remember things better, and I'm able to utilize it more when I'm actually surrounded by it versus...
Immersion.
Yeah, totally immersion versus here. So, like, I pick up things fast when I'm there because I'm forced to, which is great, and I love it. But then the minute I come home, it's like, it's gone. Yeah,
and like, kanji is so hard. Kana is easier. I can do hiragana, I can do katakana. I do speak Japanese.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You got tons of... I wish I would have taken lessons as a younger lady.
A strapping young lad. But I do have lessons on my YouTube channel, hint, hint, wink, wink.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll check them out.
Yeah, they're for anime-themed Japanese.
Oh, nice.
So that's what it's designed around. You should check it out.
I will.
We don't have a lot of kanji stuff, though, because kanji is hard for me, and I can't do it.
Kanji's tough. Yeah, I mean, all of it's tough. I don't, the writing, something about it, I can't, my brain has a tough time transition, like getting it. I don't know. Speaking is better for me than reading.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And definitely writing. Like,
writing is...
I barely know how to write.
Writing is hard. It's a stroke order. Stroke order is hard for me to remember. Yeah. But yeah, it's amazing. And I love Japan. And yeah, it's great. And another thing that I learned when I was researching this interview is that you wrote a video game called Daylight, which my dad has actually played, and I've seen a little bit of it, which totally didn't know that was you.
Yeah.
But it was amazing, and it was really fascinating learning that you wrote it and that we've already played it. But it was even more fascinating learning that through the process of writing and making the video game, you decided that like video game reviews just weren't for you because you know how hard it is now.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really amazing point. And you said that on a table talk with Steve Zaragoza, who I love, by the way, he's great. And I was really interested on like if your thoughts on that have changed.
No, if anything, it's gotten more cemented in my mind because now I've met more people in the industry. They're on the development side. I've become really good friends with them, and so I find it very, very hard to give reviews on games. Yeah. I do want to preface, however, that there is a certain, like, as a consumer, because as a consumer, you should know what you're buying. Like, you should, like, there's reviews for everything. There's reviews for stuff, like lipsticks on Amazon. Like, there's a reason for reviews, and I understand that. And so if I do a review or if I do talk about a game, because it's almost impossible to do that without bringing up positives and negatives, which is essentially a review, I try to at least make it well-rounded, or the negatives that I have about it, I look at from a consumer point of view rather than a media point of view. Yeah. And it's a fine line, and often I'm sure I blur it, but I at least try to approach it like if I'm walking into the store and I am a person that is spending $60, which is a lot of money on a game, what is it about this game that I expect and like, and what is it about it that I don't? Yeah. But I definitely don't try to roll into games with reviews for like hot takes just to get, people commenting, so eyeballs. I feel like that is just not something that I enjoy reading or that I want to be associated with. Yeah. One of my favorite things, actually, some of the writers that I think are actually really, really good in regards to their reviews, where I feel like they give really concise, balanced reviews, believe it or not, is Game Informer magazine. Oh, really? They have a website, and their website's great. Yeah. They're the only magazine I still subscribe to. Everything that they write in there that I've experienced so far, I know people change all the time, they're writers, but as of this moment, I have had so much fun reading their reviews. I think they're really, really informative.
I think
they do
they're
a
fun.
good job.
I like theirs. Yeah, I read a lot of theirs before I buy
Yeah,
games.
Polygon's really good too.
Polygon is good.
Yeah, but I like Game Informer. They're neutral while still giving you the information.
Yeah, I like that. And yeah, I like Polygon as well. Both of those are just really good gaming magazines and stuff. And speaking of gaming, you have talked a little bit about Neko Atsume VR, which I'm very happy about.
Yes.
I love it. I can't wait for it to come to the States.
I know. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Please come.
Please
to the
come.
States. But I was
Please
wondering.
come like today.
Yeah, right now. Let's play it right now. But I was wondering if you've gotten into VR gaming outside of that.
Yeah, well, I haven't. I've played. I'm one of those people that have a really bad time with it. I get real sick, very, very sick. Some games seem to work for me for some reason, and then there's others that don't. And then there's times where I'll be able to play a VR game. There's one called, oh gosh, what was it called that I was playing? And I kind of gave it a review,
What's
I
it
think
about?
on Instagram. Layers of Fear.
Layer of Fear. Okay, yeah.
Layers of Fear, one day I put the headset on and everything was fine, and I played for like 5 hours and was great.
Awesome.
Didn't feel sick at all. The next day I put it on for an hour and I was like, ugh. So I think it all depends on sinuses, inner ear, like what's going on with you. I think it was more me than the game.
Yeah, I went to VRLA and I had an ear infection, so
So it's impossible. Like, what was it? What's that? The rhythm game with the lightsabers?
Beat Saber.
I love Beat Saber. I love music rhythm games. That one I was fine.
Awesome.
Like, I don't get it.
I'm
like,
glad.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
I think it's movement. Movement usually.
Movement's
screws people
tough,
up.
yeah. So something like Bethesda's VR where you're floating around Fallout, and hot jumping yourself into little locations, that makes me vomit.
Oh no.
But then more of the Batman VR experience that came out when VR first dropped was
Was that good?
that was great.
Oh,
it was
awesome.
like this, just like you didn't do anything. It was just you were in Batman's.
You were Batman.
You were Batman in his cave and
Doing
in the Batcave
Batman
and
things.
just literally looking at stuff, and that was fine. So I think experience stuff where I'm not moving around too much is good, but the other stuff is rough.
Awesome. And like speaking of gaming,
But I'll do anything to play Neko Atsume.
Oh yeah.
Like anything. I don't care if I throw up on my floor. No. Like I will be playing and petting those damn cats.
Oh no, but nude. But oh no.
Yeah, gonna do it.
Yeah, I'm so excited. But yeah, speaking of gaming and pop culture, you probably know that Denver Comic Con is a product of Pop Culture Classroom, which is using pop culture to teach kids literacy and other things. And I was wondering what your favorite thing, besides things that you've been involved in, that you've seen that you want to pass down to your son as a mom is to learn through pop culture.
Oh, like what kind of pop culture?
Like specific things, like specific games, comic books,
games.
books.
Gosh, I mean, I like so much stuff. I definitely want to get him involved in anything that is anime manga related.
Yep.
I already told him that when he's 7, I'm taking him to Japan with me.
Yay!
So he's very excited because he is all about it too. I planted that seed, so I'm very thrilled. So that and gosh, specific. I don't. For him, I kind of just. I don't really, with the exception of Japan, because of my own selfish intentions, I kind of just let him find his way. You know, we've got a ton of stuff around the house that we've gotten over time from cons and things, and if he starts to show interest in it, I just really make a point of trying to show him that I'm interested in what he likes as well. So his big thing lately, like you heard at the panel, is Minecraft and Roblox. And that's because he finally figured out how to use the controller by himself. Up until that point, his hands are too small, and I had to do it for him. And he's figured it out, so he's really proud. So we let him play. I don't think there's nothing worse, I think, than trying to keep kids away from certain things, because then it just adds an exoticism to that they're going to want to be attracted to anyway. But if you are there and watch them while they're experiencing it and keeping, because it's still internet and all that stuff. I mean, he's not online, but eventually we'll get to that point. That, as long as you keep an eye on that stuff and are involved, it's okay. Like, he will still be a reader. He will still be a video gamer. Like, one and the other don't necessarily mean you can't do like, just because you're a gamer doesn't mean you're not a reader, and vice versa. If anything, it makes you more of a reader, especially if you're playing these like deep story games, because you want to just explore.
Read.
Yeah, it's kind of seems to go hand in hand for me actually. But so I just kind of let him find his way. And then if he shows something of interest in the house, like for a while he was really into Wonder Woman. So I had him read Wonder Woman stuff. I had tons of Wonder Woman stuff around the house. So it's whatever he's kind of curious in.
Yeah, do you mind if I give you a recommendation for something to do later on?
Sure.
So once he's a little bit older, Assassin's Creed is fantastic for history.
Oh, yes, I agree. I've actually am just about to start Odyssey.
Nice.
And this was the first time they put a education mode, I think, in the game where you can kind of go visit those. I'm so stoked for that.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
I did a unit study around pirates for Black Flag.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, not Odyssey, Origins. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But yeah, it's great and it's super awesome.
That's cool.
But yeah, after the panel, when I was wondering if you're going to be what we like to call a one-question guest, where I get to ask one question and then we just talk for 20 minutes, and that's it. And that's how I know an interview goes well, is when I don't get through all my questions. And I didn't get through all my questions because we just talked. No, it's fine. That's how I know it went well. And it's really amazing. It just means that we had a conversation and we talked, and it was awesome. I wanted to thank you so much for not letting me get through all my questions.
Oh, my pleasure.
And just like having a great time with me.
Thanks.